During the winter of my 8th grade year, winter when we had a white Christmas, we gained a new addition to our family. Hungry and shivering, she showed up on our front porch that one day that freezing winter. We opened our door and hearts to her, and she became our first and only cat, Socks. Adopting a pet may seem scary at first, but adoption has many advantages over buying a pet. You will reduce the amount of homeless animals that live in shelters or on the streets, and inevitably could save them from their death. There are many reasons for adoption, and here are just a few. The amount of homeless animals on the streets or in shelters, euthanasia of many animals, and the price difference between adopting and buying. The first reason for adoption is the sheer amount of animals living without good homes. According to Oxford Pets, about 70% of pet owners end up giving up, abandoning, or taking their pets to a shelter. And many animals just want to live in a nice home where they are loved, not in a cold metal cage. The animals that are admitted into shelters usually live their life sitting in a cage, waiting for someone to stumble in and adopt them. Some of them are even born into the cages that they later live in. A common misconception about pet adoptions, is that the animals become mean towards humans because they've lived in cages for a while. But this is usually never true. They tend to warm up to families very quickly because all animals want is love and affection and a nice home to live in. My second point is probably the most depressing point: euthanasia. Euthanasia is the act of humanely putting an animal to death. According to the American Humane Association, about 3.7 million animals are put down because they are not wanted and do not have a nice home to live in. By simply adopting a pet, that 3.7 million could decrease so much until one day euthanasia is not needed anymore. My last point has to do with the cost of owning a pet. According to the Pet Education, a well-bred puppy costs about $1,000 before any vet cost or buying food or toys or any extra things that animals just love to have. The expense of adopting a pet is much, much less than that. Adopting an animal runs about $25 to $250, depending on the age and type of animal you would like to have. SPCA of Texas stated that adoption fees include spaying and neutering, initial vaccination, deworming, a microchip in case your animal runs away or gets lost, leash, and a pet carrier. Things that would add up another $1,000 if they weren't already done. Even though adoption is not for every person, it does not mean you should not explore your options. Adopting a pet may seem scary, but adoption has many advantages over buying a pet from someone who just breeds animals. The amount of homeless animals would decrease, euthanasia would decrease, and the financial burden of a new pet would be a lot less. Next time you're thinking about getting a new addition to the family, stop by your local animal shelter or adoption center to see what they have. You might just fall in love with that little face staring up at you from that metal cage. The more animals adopted into loving homes, the less that have to die for no reason. You never know where your next pet will come from, whether they wander onto your front porch after a winter storm, or they're sitting in a shelter waiting for you to wander in.